Few names echo through time with the same power as Dr. King. For those who know history, the name evokes images of courage, determination, and hope. For those who don't, the name conjures questions. Who was Dr. King? Why does his name still resonate today? And what can we learn from this extraordinary man? This is a story of vision and victory, of courage and convictions. It's the story of the man whose words shook a nation. So let's get started. It all began in a small town in Atlanta, Georgia. On January 15, 1929, Martin Luther King Jr. was born into a world that would try to limit his dreams based on the color of his skin. He grew up in the segregated American South, where opportunities were denied and rights were taken away just because of who he was. But young Martin was different. He had a fire in his belly, a passion for justice that would one day ignite a nation. Martin's childhood home was steeped in faith. His father was a pastor, and the house was filled with the teachings of love, equality, and service. Sunday mornings were special. The church was not just a place of worship, it was a school of thought, a training ground for the future leader. The walls of that church were witnesses to the quiet conversations between young Martin and his father, talks that shaped his worldview and laid the foundation for his future actions. As Martin grew older, the harsh realities of segregation seeped into his life. He saw the discrimination, the injustice, the way people were treated just because they were black. But instead of succumbing to hate, he chose to fight. And he chose to fight not with anger or violence, but with the weapon that had been sharpened in the halls of his father's church, the weapon of words, the power of speech. His journey through life was not easy. There were times when the weight of expectations, his own and others, threatened to crush him. There were moments when the harsh words of critics echoed louder than the cheers of his supporters. Yet through it all, he held on to his dream, a dream of a better world, a world where his children would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. In the chapters ahead, we'll see how that dream took flight. We'll witness the evolution of a man who went from being a young boy in a segregated South to becoming a global icon of peace and equality. We'll delve into the depths of his struggles, the highs and lows, the triumphs and tragedies. But for now, we must stay in the present and keep watching as we uncover the next chapter in the story of the man who changed a nation with his words. The year is 1955, and the city is Montgomery, Alabama. A seamstress named Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus to a white man. She was arrested, and the African-American community was outraged. Enter Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a young pastor who would lead the Montgomery bus boycott, a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement. For over a year, the black community in Montgomery refused to ride the buses, walking instead, enduring the scorching heat and the biting cold. It was a tough battle, but it was also a testament to their unity and their resolve. Dr. King emerged as a leader of the movement, his voice ringing with the promise of change. As the boycott dragged on, the rest of the country began to pay attention. Dr. King's message of non-violent resistance to racial segregation caught the attention of the nation. His words were simple, powerful, and unwavering. He advocated for justice, equality, and an end to the oppressive Jim Crow laws. But it wasn't just his words, it was the way he carried himself. The calm in the face of adversity, the courage to stand up against an unjust system. His leadership during the Montgomery bus boycott was instrumental in its success. After 381 days of protest, the Supreme Court ruled that racial segregation on public buses was unconstitutional. It was a landmark decision that reverberated across the nation. But Dr. King didn't stop there. He went on to lead numerous other protests and campaigns, each one chipping away at the wall of segregation. His influence was growing, his following swelling, and his message resonating with people not just in the segregated South, but across the United States. As Dr. King continued to fight for justice, his methods and philosophy were constantly challenged. Some wanted a more violent approach, a quicker, more aggressive way to dismantle the system of segregation. But Dr. King held firm to his belief in non-violent resistance, a testament to the strength of his convictions. By the early 1960s, Dr. King's name was synonymous with the civil rights movement. He was both revered and reviled, celebrated for advancing the cause of equality and condemned by those who benefited from the status quo. But Dr. King pressed on, his eyes fixed on the prize, a world where his children would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. He was ready for what came next. Little did he know what lay ahead was one of the most defining moments of his life. The year is 1963, and the location is the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. On August 28th, a massive crowd gathered for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, and at the stroke of noon, a Baptist minister from Atlanta took to the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. This was no ordinary man. This was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and what he was about to say would echo through the corridors of history. The speech was supposed to be just another call for civil rights, another plea for equality. But it turned into something more, something extraordinary, something that changed the course of a nation. Dr. King spoke about the promises of the past, the unfulfilled dreams of freedom and equality for all. He talked about the present, the struggles, the discrimination, the injustices faced by African Americans every day, and he spoke about the future, a future where his children would live in a nation where they were not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. But it was more than just the words. It was the way he said it, the cadence, the pauses, the emphasis. It was a masterclass in oratory, a symphony of words that resonated with millions. He spoke not just for the African American community, but for all Americans, for all who had ever been oppressed, for all who had ever dreamed of a better world. And then came the crescendo, the part that made this speech one of the greatest in American history, the part that cemented Dr. King's place in the hearts and minds of millions. I have a dream that my 4 little children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state so hostile to the dreams of equality, will understand and become a place where little black children will join hands with little white children as sisters and brothers. I have a dream that one day there was no dry eye in the crowd. It was a vision of hope, of unity, of equality. It was a dream that millions of Americans had shared but had never heard articulated so beautifully, so passionately. As Dr. King spoke, he didn't just move the crowd, he moved the nation. That day, the August of 1963, was a turning point, not just for the civil rights movement, but for America. The March on Washington was a success beyond everyone's expectations, and Dr. King's speech was the reason. The road ahead was not paved with roses. Dr. King and his family understood this well. They had tasted the bitterness of hatred, the sting of criticism, the pain of separation. As Dr. King's popularity grew, so did the threats. His home was bombed, his children received hate mail, and his life was constantly in danger. There were times when the weight of expectations almost crushed him, when the endless battles left him weary and disillusioned. In 1960, Dr. King found himself in jail for his activism, spending Christmas separated from his family. But even behind bars, his spirit didn't break. He used the time to write, penning letters that would later become some of his most powerful sermons. Despite the sacrifices, the arrests, the hate, Dr. King kept going. He led the Selma to Montgomery marches, pushing for voting rights for African Americans. He marched in Chicago, calling for open housing. He met with world leaders, advocating not just for civil rights, but for peace around the globe. In 1964, his efforts bore fruit. The Civil Rights Act was passed out, outlawing discrimination based on race, color, religion, or national origin. It was a monumental victory, a testament to Dr. King's leadership and the power of nonviolent resistance. But Dr. King wasn't done. He set his sights on economic justice, creating the Poor People's Campaign to address poverty and inequality. But sadly, in 1968, his life was cut short. He was assassinated on April 4th in Memphis, Tennessee. Thousands mourned his loss, but his death only solidified his legacy. His dream had become a beacon for people around the world, a symbol of hope in the face of adversity. When Dr. King was assassinated, the nation mourned, but amidst the grief, there was a sense of pride. Pride in the life he had lived, the battles he had fought, and the victories he had won. In the years that followed, schools integrated, civil rights laws were enacted, and the fabric of American society began to change. Dr. King's dream was becoming a reality, not overnight, not easily, but steadily, surely. The impact of his work transcended national borders. His philosophy of nonviolent resistance inspired movements for civil rights and social justice around the world. From South Africa to India, from the United States to the Philippines, his name was a rallying cry for oppressed people everywhere. Today, his legacy lives on in the diversity of our communities, in the acceptance of our differences, in the laws that protect our rights. Dr. King showed us that one voice, fueled by courage and conviction, can move mountains. And remember, his dream wasn't just his, it's ours too. Life lesson. Dr. King's life was a testament to the power of one voice. His dream was audacious, his journey challenging, yet his impact was immeasurable. He demonstrated that one person with a compelling vision and unwavering determination can indeed change the world. So if Dr. King's story has inspired you, ask yourself, what dreams do you hold? What changes do you want to see in the world? Because, as Dr. King once said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent. Don't let your story end. Let it begin. Let it begin with a dream, with a vision, with a single step towards making the world a better place. Let it begin today. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Our American Stories. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends and subscribe for more inspiring episodes. Your support helps us bring these stories to more people, ensuring that their legacies continue to inspire generations to come. Together, we can keep their stories alive.